Our next speaker is Dr. Xavier Boivin. Dr. Boivin, if you wanted to share your screen, please go ahead. Dr. Boivin is a distinguished scientist from INRAE, the French National Institute for Agriculture, Food and Environment. He has held many positions within INRAE. He, as the research director at the Joint Research Unit on Herbivores, Dr. Boivin has made significant contributions to the field of ethology, specializing in the human-animal relationship and animal welfare within farming systems. Dr. Boivin's interdisciplinary approach, which involves working closely with ergonomists, sociologists, bridges the gap between animal welfare science and practical farming applications. He is also a board member of the One Welfare Joint Technology Network, contributing to the integration of animal welfare, human well-being, and environmental sustainability. Dr. Boivin has published extensively. He's a prolific author and has influential publications. Some of them are really engaging and topical area, assessing the human-animal relationship in farmed species from the applied animal behavior science, stockmanship and farm animal welfare from the Journal of Animal Welfare, establishment of cattle-human relationships. These are very highly cited works, opening up new avenues of research and have significantly advanced our understanding of the human-animal relationship. I think about 10 years ago, maybe 2013 or 2014, Dr. Boivin already presented his innovative viewpoints at a French conference that combined ethology, human psychology, and robotics, showcasing his forward-thinking approach. Dr. Boivin's work not only improves the welfare of farmed animals, but also provides ways, methodologies, systems to demonstrate the critical impact, how the animal management can be done properly in terms of improving the profitability, productivity, as well as sustainability. We are super glad and thrilled to have Dr. Boivin with us today. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Boivin. The floor is yours, Dr. Boivin. Perhaps you want to unmute Dr. Boivin.
Yes, now it is. Okay. Do you hear me?
Thank you. Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much for this presentation and having the opportunity to give a talk and develop my thoughts about this subject. I am a ethologist. And I am a ethologist, as you said, working now with a lot with human scientists, and I will try to develop my ideas and what I have done. I work mainly with beef cattle, but I have been working with many different species, not with poultry. I enjoy very much the work, the talk from Marian. I'm not familiar with poultry, but so you can see my CV, if I can say. My talk will be developed in 3 parts: ethology and new technology. I will give my point how useful I find new technologies for ethology. I will discuss about human-animal relationship and with consideration in ergonomic and sociology, and some thoughts at the end of my talk. First, about ethology. Well, first I wanted to define what is animal behavior, as I am a ethologist. And animal behavior are all motor manifestations observable of an individual at a particular time and place. That's why it is so attracting to use new technologies for that. But we have to remember that an animal behavior is an organization of individual motor activities, because an animal have a nervous system, and Dr. Dawkins described motor state and how it is important to understand animal behavior and animal welfare. And the most important aspect, in my opinion, is that when we are studying behavior, we need to understand what an animal is doing, how, where, when, with, who, and why. So this is one of the difficulty with the new technologies. And we have this discussion about cortisol. And I totally agree with Marianne when she says that one simple data does not mean anything in terms of behavior if it is not taking into account on how, where, when, with, who, and why an animal is doing something. And the question is, of course, how to observe animal behavior. I will just give you shortly a difficulty we have in methodology observing animal behavior, just to be connected. This is a study made by Mesenes in 2021. They were interested by the importance of brush for dairy cows and how brush can bring something to their welfare, their behavior and welfare. And so they observe, after putting brush compared to a control group, they observe before, just after, and during 64 days, they observe how the animal were reacting to this brush, using this brush, and what consequence on their behavior. And they use two classical ways in ethology to observe animal behavior. They use scan sampling, which means instant photo every 10 minutes. But they need for that 3 trained observers with 95% of accuracy, and they record the number of animals per pen, sleeping, standing, eating, drinking, and other. This is a way to record animal behavior in a very long time. If you want to be more precise, you need continuous sampling, but then you need more people just for having frequency and duration for each animals. So they need 23 trained observers, again, with a large accuracy among them, and to investigate social leaking, bar leaking, tongue playing, stereotypies, and so on. Just to give an idea of what they obtain, they compare so with a brush or without the brush, and you can see that when putting a brush in their pen, they use it quite a lot. And this has consequences of the other behavior. They reduce considerably if you consider this curve. Do you see my mouse? Is it possible? Yes. I believe. And you can see a strong reduction of mounting. You can see a strong reduction also of bar leaking and head butting when for the group, for the cattle that have received this brush compared to the control group. And this also reduces social leaking. And so you can see the strong influence of a brush, and that's confirmed very much what Marianne say about the interest of such technologies, because the brush is robotized. There's such strong improvement of their behavior according to these facilities. And regarding now how we record animal behavior, you can use it because it's costly in terms of human time. You can use collars, you can use cameras, and you can use artificial intelligence to try to record these behaviors. And with my colleague, we use that, for example, with captors, with position captors, to investigate how and when they use this, the different element of their environment, for example, the brush, for example, the cubicles, or the leaking salt. And this could learn, as Marianne says, we could learn like that how an animal is in ruminal acidosis and when it is without looking at him. So this could be a valuable, very valuable information to the farmers using this technology, replacing human observation in one way. Just to finish what we are doing at the moment, shortly, because we believe in it, we try to use deep learning, and deep learning through video camera analysis and deep learning need first to annotate a lot of image. So when we were talking about a large data set to investigate, to be used with these new facilities, with these new technologies, we have to remember that will need a huge video analysis. First, annotate images, feeding the deep learning to get the same result. And we are investigating how precise and how sensitive is the system with different behaviors. And in our result, very often this precision and sensitivity is not given by the studies. And here you can see that the detection standing, lying are quite very good by the system, eating too with all bulls, but not necessarily some other more complex behaviors such drinking, moving, lying. So you can see that there is still a lot of work analyzing the videos to have very careful, precise, and sensitive information to be adequate compared to human observation. So it is very interesting. It is the future of our work as ethologists and also for farmers. But be careful before having a very accurate information and interpret it. This was just a message I wanted to say at first of my talk. I will now talk about human-animal relationship and particularly how this can impact the world of the people. But keep that in mind, please. Okay, and this was the last slide. That could be very good too, for example, for lying. Okay. About human-animal relationship, I want first to say that, of course, we want to look at the animal. But we have to remember that animals are looking at us. That's very important to understand our relationship with them. With these cows, very often we are focused on our own interest and not on the fact animals are looking also at us. And a very important aspect too, even with the new technologies, will be that we will always see animals as we imagine they are, but never as they are really. So we should be always very careful about the interpretation of our observation, but also interpretation from the new technologies providing us new information. Okay. In ethology, how are we defining human-animal relationship? Of course, when you are eating a steak, you can have a kind of human-animal relationship, but this is not what we are discussing in ethology. In ethology, we are considering that a relationship is built from regular interaction between two individuals, and this allows to predict the outcome of the future interaction. That's very important. Please, if you have just something to remember what I have said during these hours, is the fact that each time we are doing something, the interpretation of what we are doing from the animal point of view is based on what it has experienced from the past, and this will have consequences because it will predict for the future interaction what will be the issue of the future interaction. And of course, because as human animals, in all farm animals are able to evaluate the situation, so to have emotion, memorization, learning, and communication. That's so very important to consider the dynamic of the interactions, and interaction between human and animal are not simply interaction, but are the result of the future of the relationship. And this has strong consequences on production, work, satisfaction, security, animal welfare, and health. So this is why so many studies were interested by studying human-animal relationship during the last 30 years. Just as an aspect, and that's for any relationship, even in humans, you have to remember that in one way, we can consider that we have an animal with emotion, a human with emotion, and of course, the balance between positive and negative contact should be in favor of positive contact if you could imagine having a good human-animal relationship. That's the way we are at the moment considering the human-animal relationship with our farm animals. Okay, if I have been clear what our nephrologist is understanding or trying to modelize the human-animal relationship, I will now interact with sociologists and ergonomists on those aspects. And if you are interested, you can have more information in a recent review we did with an ergonomist presenting ergonomy and ecology and how we can interact together to study human-animal relationship. But I will start by presenting the future of our husbandry system. This has been done by the French Ministry, considering what was the prospection for 2050. And one scenario, there are 4 scenarios. I will just present you 2 extreme ones. In one scenario, they will consider that it will be a scenario productivist with a lot of technology and intensification of agriculture and a scholarly sobriety, which means that probably we will have an increase in sci-fi, we will have control environment, we have concern about biosecurity, mechanization, and we will have a lot of individual and collective monitoring sensor and this question of sustainable and circular economy. And of course, we will question the environment enrichment. So this is one scenario where the new technology are omnipresent with that. They presented another scenario that is totally different. Of course, it's an agroecological scenario with the use of local resources, local markets, naturalness, and in this context, that doesn't mean that the technology will not occur. We will also have a lot of captors that could help to manage these animals outdoors. But in both cases, of course, we have to interrogate us. What is the place of the human-animal relationship in these different contexts? How this will change the way we are farming our animal? How this will change our work with this different technology, mechanization or captors? And if we consider what is a farmer for tomorrow, well, it's for today, but it's also for tomorrow. A farmer is a business manager. It is an investor. He is creating wealth and job. He has an environmental responsibility for sustainability. He will be, or he is a geek now with this new technology, but he is also a producer and a commercial exporter. All are what we are expecting for all farmers. But here in France, it is more. At the moment, there is a big debate in France, and we consider that the farmers have a very important role in national security for food self-sufficient, for feeding in France 70 million of people. They need to save. We need to have food safety. They need to produce food, quality food, and for gastronomy. And of course, they are responsible for animal welfare. And in addition, with ecosystemic services, they are responsible for the maintenance of a diverse and living landscape, which contribute to tourism, to heritage, and biodiversity. This is all what we are expecting from our farmers. What I wanting to say to you at the moment is there is so many things in the head of the farmers. As Marianne Dawkins say, it's not an easy job. But so what are doing our farmers? They are searching for time, for lost time, if we could say. And what I want to discuss with you is what's consequence for the human-animal relationship. I want to discuss with you what practices for tomorrow, for the well-being of the human, but also of their animals together in a one welfare perspective. And also, animals are not just passive; they are reacting to human interaction, as I demonstrated to you. So, will it be a human-animal relationship that is under, or a human-animal relationship that will be built by the farmer along the time to keep a balance between for good condition of work and animal welfare? I hope I am clear, but this is the challenge for the future. Okay. When you go on the internet, I wanted first an example of the future or at the present of some example of farms. In this farm, the title was Automate Everything to Concentrate on the Essentials, the cow. So you can feel that this farmer is focused on the cow and probably on animal welfare. But when you read what they wrote, they say they want to make milk as much as possible by optimizing their working time. They want to choose automation with milking robot, automatic scrapping, mulching, and cubicles, and above all, automated feeding. That for 2 worker units, an husband and his wife, for 240 cows. In addition, they will have a pig production, and what they call by focusing on cows and free up their time, Actually, they say our goal is to effectively manage our time to spend it on what matters most the cows. But what means most the cows? They rely heavily on the data collected by the various machines to manage their health. Which means, and if you look at the picture here, they never enter in contact with the cows. This is a human pathway to just be able to observe cows from up. So the conception of human animal relationship in the future could be maybe such kind of experimental, such kind of farms. Okay. What consequence? I look in the literature because I need to work specifically myself on that, but I look on the literature what example we have on consequences of these new technologies on human-animal relationship. Here I bring you in Australia, where there was 5 dairy farms that was transitioning from a conventional milking to an automatic milking system. So you have here the number of cows. And they observed the farm before transition and one year later, and they ask also the number of interaction between human and animals, and they also test what was the average flight distance animals have from humans. And what they observed here was actually, there was these 5 farms, and here is the flight distance in the conventional milking system, and after 1 year in the automatic milking system. So we could have expected as many people that the flight distance has increased after having a milking robot, but it was not the case. It decreased. And it is interesting. And what are the mechanisms discussed by the author is they observe a decrease in human-animal interactions, but probably a decrease of negative interaction, bringing the animal in the milking parlor. So animals were probably handled in a better way with a milking robot than without this milking robot. And in addition, probably they spent a lot of time observing their animal, did not trusting the robot, and all these factors, these mechanisms improve the human-animal relationship rather than they decrease the quality of the relationship. Okay. So my question will be now, are we sure this is applicable for any farmers? And do it exist a variability among farmers? And with this variability, how will be the consequence of new technologies? That's what, and also the question, should we work differently with this one welfare approach, considering now the new technologies? We have also to consider that at the moment, that's a real problem because several farmers, even if they have paid for new technologies, disengage and left these new technologies because they could be unsatisfied. So I want to discuss a bit with that. Okay. Considering the one welfare approach, you will agree that one welfare can be defined as the interdependency between animal welfare and farmer welfare in interaction with socioeconomic and ecological environment at farm level. So this is this interdependency that is very interesting. And if you go now in ergonomics, that's a question of health, human health. We are discussing with Marianne about animal health, but I want here to discuss about human health at work. And health is in ergonomics, health is something that is built rather than something that is deteriorated. Health refers to the ability of the worker to respond to difficult situations, to create and to be the author of their work. There can be no well-being without doing well its job. That's very important to consider. What is doing a good job? And if I am not doing a good job, I can't be in good health. That's what ergonomics is saying. So they are saying to us to have a good job, to consider it is a good job. Of course, be sure that I'll say we need to secure the income. We need to increase the productivity. We need to be involved in commercialization. We need to have multi-production. But in the same time, we need to be aware of the last innovation. We need also to keep a balance between holidays, family, and social life. And we need to have also a good one welfare, which means a good human-animal relationship. That's what they wrote. And a last consideration in ergonomics is you have to, in their theory, they say human-animal relationships are addressed by the relationship between prescribed work and actual work, which means should I be satisfied by my human-animal relationship? And if I am not, how can I be in good health? Okay. They say very often that the herd is reflecting the stock person. But is the contact with animals still the heart of farmer job, particularly with the new technologies? That's a question I want to ask now regarding what I said about health at work. I want to describe you an experiment, a survey that we did recently. I want to describe two things. First, I want to describe a variability among farmers towards animals and their work with animals. For farmers, sociologists say that a farmer is a working companion. And it is clear that when I am saying human-animal relationship, in the mind of the farmer, it is a professional relationship. And they observe in their survey that there is three main types of farmer. Some farmer consider that the animal as an instrumentalized animals, which means it's a very nice biological machine. Some farmers consider that the animal is communicative, which means that I will handle it. I will handle animal. I will be careful that it is a sensitive and sensible animal, but that's all. I will just communicate with him. And there is a third category of farmers, and this farmer considers that they have an affectional bond with them. That's a part of their job. That's very important for them to have this affectional bonds with the animals. And the question is, of course, asked by the authors. There is different vision of the job. There is different level of interest in the job. And is it possible that behind these different visions, there is different type of behavior towards the animals? And if you know, probably you know the work from Paul Source and Graham Coleman, and they consider that there is a clear relationship between human behavior, human attitude towards the animals, human behavior, and consequences on animal behavior and well-being and productivity. And one of the main factors is a behavioral belief, which means that if you stroke an animal, is it efficient or not for its welfare? And if you don't believe it is, then you will not do it. If you shout, is it damaging their welfare or not? So the behavioral belief have strong consequences on the human behavior and then on animal behavior. Of course, there is many other factors that are involved in this model, but all these aspects have to be considered. Okay. Now, if I have not been too quick in this different conceptual view, I want to present a recent survey called Farmer Representation of the Effect of Precision Livestock Farming on Human-Animal Relationship. Here, the authors, and I was one of the authors, observe 25 farms, 8 pig farms, 10 dairy farms, and several poultry farms. You have here the number of animals in these farms, and all these farms has a transition with new technologies. We perform semi-structured interviews questioning their work representation, and also after multiple correspondence analysis, and that's ascending hierarchic clustering, we observe 3 categories of farmers relating to these different technologies. Here you have the detail. There is a different number of men and women involved. There is, as I say, different production. And the first question was about a self-image of their production. And in profile A, you can see that the self-image is poor, when in profile B and C, you can say that they have a good image of their production. When we interview them about their perception of the quality of the human-animal relationship, in profile A, they say there is no human-animal relationship. In profile B, they say a good welfare is related to good human-animal relationship. And in the last profile C, they said our relationship is animal-centered, and we really want to have this bond with the animals. And when we consider the perception of new technologies, there is a big mistake in my slide. Actually, everybody was happy about the new technologies. I'm totally sorry about that. Everybody was perfectly happy about the new technologies. Okay, that's what they say. But when we ask more in detail what they were doing, there was differences between the three profiles. In profile A, the people who have a bad image of their work, their first routine in the morning after having the new technology was to watch on the computer. That was the same in profile B. That was not the same in profile C, where their first daily routine was first to go to the animals and after to go to the computer. When we consider how the knowledge towards the animal has been improved, this was not mentioned for profile B and A, but it was improved for profile C. When we were considering the improved quality of a human-animal relationship after this technology, profile A and B said we didn't notice any differences, when profile C considers that the relationship was improved. And when we consider if they developed new practices in their farm after having the new technologies, the two first categories say we didn't change anything, when the last category said we made particular practices to adapt animal to the new technologies, and also we spent more time improving the human-animal relationship to be sure for a long time that this relationship will be maintained with the new technologies. So my main point here was to say, don't consider that the new technologies will be efficient or useful for any of the farmers, depending on their viability. That could be different way to adapt to these technologies and different consequences on the later human-animal relationship. That's very important to consider. Okay. One important aspect about the time is farmers say, it's not like before. I got less time, more animals. I know I should provide more contact to them, and the question is, especially with these new technologies, is getting quiet animal a priority, or is the new technology replacing a poor human-animal relationship? That's one of the biggest challenges of the future work. Okay, sorry. And for that, I wanting to cite the work from Cécile Fiorelli at INRAE, who describe what are the rationalities in farmer attitude towards work. And she said, when you consider farmers, there are 5 rationalities: economics, technical, search for identity, relative to the body engagement during work, because people like to work, for example, outdoors. They like to work at the animal life, for example. And the last one is the one that is the most important for me. The last one is what is called the rationalities, which means I need to have a social life with my colleagues, with my friends. I need also to have a rationalities with animals. And this is what is particularly important. Some of these rationalities are considered as lever when you lose time, when you don't have enough time, when some other are something that you can't change. It is priority, really a priority. So Cécile say, when you are a farmer, you have to arbitrate what priority you will put in. Is it in economy? Is it in techniques? Is it in the way you work? And is it about your personal life? Or will you keep the rational rationality? And we know that under stress, even for human, we know that this rational rationality is the one that we decrease. How could I say that? Imagine when a person is working and is on stress, very, very often, one sign of bad health is she will isolate himself. She will try to concentrate on what she feel very important. But then there is a big risk for health, for human health. And so this is the same for the human-animal relationship, if you understand the important point. So when we consider we have not enough time, what will be the future of this rationality, and how we will manage that? Okay, and this could have strong consequences. Okay, just to finish my talk, I don't know how much time I have. 10 minutes, I believe. Is it okay?
Yeah, no problem. Yes.
Okay, very good. When I discuss with ergonomists and sociologists, I ask them, well, how do you call all practices, husbandry practices, where you build a human-animal relationship? Is it a husbandry practices? How you call that? I asked a specialist about that. For the specialist, an husbandry practices is a strategy including choice and technical action depending on the farmer's objective. And they say to me, no, we do not consider strategies to improve the human-animal relationship as husbandry practices. I ask them, is it a part of the work? Is it really something considered as work? And the answer is still unclear. And if you ask many people when you spend time with animal for habituate them to you, habituate them to be handled, it's not completely clear if it is pleasure to be with them or is it really work. And when I ask them, how can we call these practices building the human-animal relationship? Well, they say to me, we could call them rational practices. And this could be called strategies targeting to improve the work with animals and reduce their stress for improving production and welfare. I believe this is very interesting to see that building the human-animal relationship first, for me, is a part of the job. And second, it has to be organized. It has not to be considered as a second priority for the farmers. It is one of the biggest priority for them. Otherwise, the poor human-animal relationship will have a lot of consequence of what they want. Okay. And so for building this relationship, I have no time to detail how I am considering these rational practices. But if you consider that you have to consider genetics, because you can choose what are the father, sorry, it's in French, I didn't translate it, I'm very sorry about that. But you have to consider the genetic, selecting animals according to how they are reacting to humans. You have to consider prenatal stress. You have to consider the calving period for cattle. You have to consider the young age. You have to consider the weaning period. All along the life of the individuals, you have to consider how will be your interaction with them. Is there some sensitive period of contact with the animals? So all these things build a real strategy to improve the human-animal relationship, and that could be called rational practices with the animals. Okay, just to finish some thoughts about human-animal relationship and new technologies. Probably you know the 3 rules of robotics if you like robots. And I was inspired to consider that, to apply that in all situations. I would say a robot may not enjoy the human-animal relationship, or through inaction allow human-animal relationship to come to harm. If you know well Asimov, you know what I am saying, you have the reference here. But that's very important to consider that this human-animal relationship should not be damaged by the new technologies. And the second rule was a robot must be useful to human beings and animals, except where such orders would conflict the first law. And the last one, a robot must be robust to not conflict the first and the second law. Just to say that when we will consider robotics or new technologies, that's very important to have in mind. Maybe these 3 rules, as Asimov said about robots, and that could be a guide for futuring or technologies. Now, another thought. It's about genetics. For example, in my work with Pierre Lenin, and in other laboratories, we observed sufficient heritabilities to select animals according to their response to humans. That could be when they are in a crush, when they are directly handled by people, or when they are approached, for example, at the feeding place. All are inheritable, which means it's possible to select animal on this basis. And these different traits are independent, so we have to be careful about what we are selecting. But the point I want to say is, if you reduce the human-animal relationship, you make more visible this genetic variability. And the important point I would mention is, when you consider the definition of domestication in applied ethology, domestication is a process by which an animal population becomes adapted to human and the captive environment. It is done by genetic change from generation to generation. It is done by environmental events occurring during development and reproducing with each generation. So my question is, do we assist with the new technologies to a new domestication pressure? Because when we consider statistics, when we consider algorithms, and we will apply algorithms not to few individuals, but to a large population, should we have a chance to select animals that are the best fitting with this new technology? And all animals that will not be adapted to this new technology will be discarded. And so it is probable that we will assist to a new factor of domestication during the future, like it has been, for example, for the teats for the dairy cows when they have to adapt to the milking robot or to the milking parlor. So there is a strong change that even if it is for improving animal welfare and production, probably there will be a consideration on how population will change according to these new technologies. And some last thoughts. I would say that new technologies need new competence without damaging the crucial sense of stockmanship. Otherwise, there is a risk for loss of interest in the profession and in the human-animal relationship at a long time. So some different scientists develop these ideas. New technologies need rational practices to maintain or improve human-animal relationship. And the farmers we interviewed mentioned that this will facilitate the use of this new technology, but also the human-animal relationship for the entire life cycle of the animals. And the last point is, new technology could be useful complement in case of good human-animal relationship, and it's always quick human assistance, which means that new technologies could not replace a poor human-animal relationship. And a last aspect, and Marianne Dawkins mentioned that, we will have a lot of new data, and one question will be how the farmer will sort through this mass of data available, and how their working life will be polluted or not by the alert producing by the system. So that was my last thought. I hope it was interesting for you. I thank you again for your invitation, and I am ready to answer any questions. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Dr. Boivin. It's really very insightful. Let's give a big round of applause for Boivin. Now the floor is open for questions.
If you have any questions, please add them to the chat. Perhaps I will start out with a question. So thank you for that really interesting talk, Dr. Boivin. I really like the fact that you talked about the 3 rules for robot-animal interactions, because I've been thinking about that during your talk. You're talking a lot about human-animal relationships. And I think, we are, by adding new technologies, we're introducing new kinds of relationships into the animals' lives. And I've even read studies where in some contexts, the animals are more comfortable perhaps interacting with certain technologies than they are with humans. So maybe I just wanted you to comment on that. I think you said at the very end, we're not going to replace the human-animal interaction. I think that's a really important part of farming, and in particular from the farmer's perspective, their satisfaction in the job is often interacting with those animals. But where do you see the potential for I guess, reducing stress on animals that may be stressed by human interaction?
That's one of the surprise for a very long time. I assist at the first making robot in New Zealand, and people were expecting a decrease, an increasing fear of human from the dairy cows, and it did not happen. And the people say to me, so first, as human, many of us did not realize that we could be fearful. We could not fearful. We could be stressful for our animals because we are shouting a lot, because we are moving quickly. We are without realizing all our behaviors. A lot of because, for example, I really feel that we need to work at the pace of the animals and not just as quick as we want. We need to hurry by being slow, if I could say. Because if you move too quickly, considering animal walking, you will block them. And if you block them, what is happening? You need to shout, you need to kick the animal or to eat the animals because you just went too quickly according to the peaceful way they were. This is so easy to observe on farm. This is so easy that we have all way to behave and not the way animals are behaving. So it's so easy to block them. And so when we remove such interaction, of course, animal can feel more confident if we spend time with them. And that's the second aspect. If we don't trust the machine, and if we want to observe if the machine is right, we will spend more time being there, watching the animals. And this time, without interacting with the animal, probably will habituate the animal, and maybe an animal will come to you, explore you more than before. And so the relationship will be improved. But there is a but in my mind. When we will be confident, when we will trust the machine, how much time we will spend in contact with our animal? That's a very, very important question. So I'm afraid that at the beginning, maybe the relationship will improve because we will spend more time in contact with the animals. But more and more we will trust the machine, and more we will look at the computer as I show you on my presentation, and not first on the individuals. And the problem will be when the veterinarian want to treat the animal, when any other person wanting to do something with these animals, they will not habituate at all with humans. So that's why I said, like the farmer we have in the survey, the farmer that were conscious about that, we need to have new rational practices. Otherwise, we will lose the benefit of what we have win. One.
You have to balance that, and you don't want to step back too far from interacting with those animals so that when humans need to interact, that they will still have a positive experience. So yeah, thank you for that. So we have a few questions in the chat. So from Rachel Carey, thank you for your presentation. You had an interesting comment on technology becoming a domestication pressure. From a production perspective, would the technology not need to fit the operation, therefore matching the genetic profile of animals already in the system?
I am watching the question.
Yes, yeah.
I'm not sure to understand fully. Could you ask it in another way? I'm not sure.
Maybe you could unmute and ask the question here, Rachel.
Sorry about that. So you had had a comment that technology could drive genetic selection. And in my mind, if a producer is willing to adopt a technology, it has to fit in their original operation. So does that not keep a static profile of the genetics of the animals that are already in the system?
Mhm. Yes, completely. Uh, Well, genetic is a difficulty for farmer. We try always to adapt the system to our animals, but in the same time, at the population level, we try also to adapt the population to our needs. And there is several aspects we need to put in this selection process in the same time. And very often farmers have not all the rules, all the items the breeder, the breeding organization are using for selecting their animals. And I strongly believe that yes, we will have to compromise with the new technologies. Otherwise, probably we will need to eliminate very good individuals by not considering this new domestication pressure. I'm not sure to answer your question, but I hope.
Okay. There is another question from Professor Tony Waterhouse from SRUC. Do you think there are important differences between different people and applications that can replace human time and animal contact with better data? That's the first part of the question. Second part is by adding data to human and time contact, is it an additional model, or where change in time and change in the animal contact? Any examples of changes in relationship with good practices are seen with robotic systems? Tony, please feel free to unmute and clarify.
Yeah, hi there. I just wonder whether these are simple choices, whether people replace animal contact time with data, or whether they see it as additive, or whether they see the things as complementary, and whether they, and frankly, whether the systems can be better.
I understand. I believe
You understand, do you?
Yes, I understand very well. Thank you for the question. I believe it is complementary, but I believe also that the way the developer will develop their algorithm should keep a control from the part of the farmer. I mean, it will be complementary if the farmer can be able to confirm or have some element on the control of what the algorithm are producing some information. If they totally trust in the algorithm, or if they give the feeling that they lost the control on the machine, I'm not sure we will have the same type of farmer at the end, and I'm not sure it will be beneficial for the husbandry system. If we have only geek interested by the algorithm and the machine, at the moment, I believe, as I said, as human, we just imagine how our animals are, and I believe it is exactly the same with the machine. They are not completely considering the variability among individuals. They are not completely. They are in one way imagining also the animals. So we really need to have this confirmation of the human farmer, of what the machine are saying, to trust the system. And in another way, if a human will lose the control of the system, then I believe a lot will not want to go on this system and will leave husbandry system. So at the moment, it's a very big challenge we have in France. I don't know in other countries, but the average age of the population is about 50. There is a huge challenge to renew the farmers. Of course, we can renew farmer interesting by new technologies, but we need to renew. But even with that, we need farmers also that like animals. It's a specificity of the satisfaction of the work. Otherwise, I believe that people will be lost, and we will lose our farmers. That was the first question, but I don't remember what it was.
Do you have questions?
No.
Maybe one last quick question, Dr. Boivin. How do we go about create consensus? For example, in the affective states, or even looking at definitions of emotions for farm animals, there are different groups across different worlds. They have different perspectives. They say, hey, it's not exactly from the animal's perspective. We still look through the lens of human beings. We still rely upon human psychology and Paul Ekman's concept of coming up with affective states and understanding the likings and dislikings of the animals in the interface of technology. So moving forward, how do we go about creating consensus and at the same time overcoming the blind spots in terms of really unraveling the animal's perspective?
That's a very, very important question because, for example, in France at the moment, okay, we have the consideration of the society, and a strong part of the society wants that the farmers are very careful about animal welfare. But they also want that they are very careful about the environment in general, and we are demanding so much to our farmers. And at the moment in France, there are strikes, and there's been very big social movement. And the farmers say too much, too much, too much. And the very poor consequences on that in France at the moment is that the politics are completely pleasing the farmers by contrast to the scientific community. And it seems that the regulation will be less strict to many aspects that the society want. And the farmers say, if there is no farmers, there will be no agriculture, and so no food. So that's why the concept of one welfare is so important, in my opinion. Very often, when I was discussing with farmers about animal welfare, they were saying to me, okay, I agree with you, you are interesting about human-animal relationship, and that's very important for us. But about animal welfare, okay, but we have the impression that the society is more interested by animal welfare than by human welfare, by farmer welfare. And if this attitude is the same in many countries, then there will be no consensus at all, because we will not find the farmers in the future, and we will import all the food from abroad, and it will be completely contradictory to what the citizens want. That's why this concept of one welfare at the moment is so popular among professional organization of farmers and among maybe citizens, or starting among citizens, because it seems that everybody, if we ask this question at the same time, animal welfare and human welfare, then maybe we have a chance to reach this consensus. And you have to remember that in France, I don't know in other countries, but in France, farmer is a second profession that commit suicide. It's not just a question of philosophy. It's a question really of survival of the farmers, and at the same time making the urban system taking more and more into account what Marianne Dawkins said, that animals are sensitive, and do not consider that is not efficient at all for the system and for the animals. Sorry, I'm a bit long, but that's what I think.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Boivin. It's really insightful and intriguing, and it's a lot to think about and to act upon in terms of moving forward in creating new collaboration, new possibilities to find solutions.
I would be very happy. Thank you very much for your invitation. Yes, go on.
Let's give another round of big applause for Dr. Boivin.
Thank you.